welcome to the second episode of Home Team Podcast. I'm so excited for this episode. We had our first kind of kickoff episode last week, and this week we have our very first guest. And I honestly could not think of a better person to have on this week because today's guest is a legend in the Sacramento area and probably beyond that too. But I know for sure in Sacramento. She is a softball coach she is the softball coach at Sheldon High School. Mary Jo Truesdale. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Josh.
Oh, are you kidding me? This is an honor. I've done one other podcast with you, and that was just such a treat for me and our common friend, your former coach, Deb McCollum, my current podcast host for my other podcast. Is awesome. Don't tell her I said that, because we usually talk a lot of trash about each other, but she is awesome, and it makes a lot of sense that she came from your coaching tree. So
She did a great job with us. I really miss her a lot.
I have no doubt. I think she'll probably come back at some point.
I think that would be great. I think having Coachy back would be a wonderful thing.
All right, I'll let her know that next time I see her. I'm sure you tell her all the time, but
I do. When I see her across the blacktop, I wave at her and I yell, "Hey, Coachy, are you ready to come back?"
Hey, that's awesome. And see, one of these days you'll get that answer. It's like, absolutely, I'm ready, Coach, whenever you need me. That's awesome. Well, hey, I wanted to start off with, like I said, this is our first episode with a guest. So you're kind of a guinea pig. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, we've done a lot of podcasts, but a little bit of a different format here. So, I have about some really quick rapid fire questions for you. Nothing crazy, but if you're ready, I'll jump right in.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, sounds good. So, first question: what is your favorite sports movie?
Oh, my favorite sports movie, Remember the Titans.
Oh, I love that one. That's a great answer. Okay, who is your favorite athlete of all time?
Oh, my favorite athlete of all times would be probably Babe Zaharias.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not familiar.
Golfer.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
I forgot you're a big golfer.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna look into that. I need to do a little research.
Yes. Long time old golfer.
Okay, awesome. I love that. What's your nickname? What do your players call you?
Well, they call me Coach.
Okay, just Coach. Okay, and then
right.
Your assistant coaches call you Coachy, correct?
Coach. They call me Coach.
Oh, they call you Coach too.
Deb is the only one that calls me Coachy.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, there you go. She has special privileges.
Yes, she does.
All right, there we go. So, Coach. Okay, describe yourself in 3 words.
Passionate, caring, hungry.
Ooh, I like that. I like that last one. That's good. And then this one, I'm sure you have something. I should have prepped you for this one, but what is your favorite quote?
It's all about the little things.
There we go. Look at that. She handled it like a pro. Those are all the questions, the warm-up questions, the rapid fire questions. Those are awesome. So thank you so much, Coach. And now we're just going to jump into the episode. So this feels a little bit silly because I've had this conversation with you before, but if there's any new listeners or anybody who's not familiar with Coach Truesdale, can you just give us a little bit of your background of, your athletic background, and then how that, transformed into your passion for coaching?
Well, I grew up in Michigan back in the pre-Title IX days. And back then, there weren't a lot of opportunities for young women. The only thing that we really had in high school was basketball. And it was played with 6 players. You had 2 forwards, 2 guards, and 2 rovers. And we played in the girls' gym. There was a girls' gym and a boys' gym, and the boys' gym was big and the girls' gym was small. And in order for us to practice in the boys' gym, we had to get up at 6 in the morning in the middle of winter, snowy, walk there in snowstorms. Yes, we did get to wear boots.
Yeah.
We didn't go barefoot up and down hills
Yeah.
like our parents used to tell us.
Sure.
And we would go to the big gym and we would practice there every morning. In terms of other sports, they weren't available to us then. In the summer, we were able to play softball. Travel ball was riding in the my parents' station wagon, and my PE teacher would drive us around to different towns, and we would play softball against other teams. It wasn't a true uh, travel ball league, but we would play against other teams from other towns, and that's how I was raised athletically. It was basically my PE teacher that gave up all of her time to us, and that was my experience in high school. It wasn't until college I went to a small college for a year and a half and played basketball there, and then I transferred to Michigan State, and then I played softball at Michigan State University and also field hockey. I was going to try out for the basketball team, but when I walked into the gym and I realized just how good some of those players were, I knew that I wouldn't make the team. So I went up to the coach and I asked what I might be able to do to help out the program. And so I became the statistician for the Michigan State women's basketball program. I really enjoyed basketball, and I've coached basketball before. It was actually one of my passions, was to be a basketball coach. And so I did that for a number of years in Michigan before I became a softball coach. I also coached volleyball. And so I coached in Michigan for a number of years before I moved to California. I just couldn't handle the winters anymore and the snowy springs. So I
Sure.
moved to California right before I turned 40 and got the job at Elk Grove High School and started coaching there. And then when the position opened up at Sheldon, I transferred over, and now I've been there for 25 years.
Wow, that's incredible. And I know you don't like to brag, but so how many championships have you won since being at Sheldon?
We've had 8 section championships.
That's incredible. And just, I mean, a crazy amount of wins for you over your career as well. And it's just, it's such a, I love hearing your story because it's obvious that from the very beginning, you were passionate about sports, and it's obvious to me that that love or that passion has never faded away. Like I feel like it's only grown over the years. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you seem more passionate about sports now than you were even like 5 years ago.
I think so. It's all about giving back. It started when I was younger with my PE teacher. She was a single mom with 2 kids, raising them alone, and yet she found the time to give to us. And, I wanted to model that. I wanted to be able to give back for as long as I could. And, I will turn 70 in February.
Okay.
And I just feel like I still have the energy, I still have the drive. I have great assistant coaches. I couldn't ask for a better staff. They lift me up. They are great with the players. And without them, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I've had great assistant coaches throughout my years, which have, really helped a program. So yeah, the passion is still there and it continues to burn.
It's to me, and I'm sure to all of your players, all of your coaches, and all of the parents of the athletes that you coach. I'm sure that's obvious to them as well. And I love seeing that because I think, I'm sure it's because of how difficult coaching is, how difficult teaching is. I think for some people it's really easy to become jaded, right? And it's easy to become like it's just what you do. I show up to the field, I give some instructions, and then we try to win. And if we don't win, you kind of shrug your shoulders. But I'm always impressed by the coaches who have been doing it as long as you have and are still have that fire inside of them, because it's such an important job. And I know we've talked about this before, but what you guys do as coaches is huge, because you're shaping the lives of young people.
Mhm.
Um, and so I wanted to ask you this. It's funny because one of the last times I saw you in person, and we didn't have any conversations, but it was for the was it must have been 2018 when Sheldon's boys basketball team was playing at Golden One Center at the state championship. My brother and I went to the game, but before the game, we went to Sost, which, if anybody's familiar with that area, it's right next to the stadium. And we saw you from a distance. You were with some people eating, and I felt like I was watching a celebrity, because so many people stopped at your table to talk with you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like just let Coach eat. She's just trying to eat some brisket or ribs, whatever you were having. And it's just such a cool thing to see from the outside, though, because like I said at the beginning, I was completely serious. You're a legend in this area. Like, my wife played softball. She graduated in '07 from Rio Americano. She knows your name. Her dad has been passionate about softball for a long time. They know your name. I know we know all these softball players, and they know Mary Jo Truesdale. And so this is kind of a weird question, but you're very humble, you're very kind, but at some point you must have realized that you had this status, or this respect from your peers, your athletes, the community. So at what point do you think you realized, hey, I have a lot of influence as a leader in this community? And how did you feel about that? Did you feel pressure, or did you feel like a different feeling when that realization came to you?
You know, it's funny, I still don't really recognize that. Um, I just want to be helpful. You know, um, I know that there are a lot of people that look up to me, and sometimes I wonder why. I mean, I know we've won a lot of games, but we've won a lot of games because I have great assistants. I have great parents. I've been just blessed with great athletes. Um, but mostly what I want to do is be a good mentor to those around me
Mhm.
and give to those around me what I've learned. And trust me, I don't know it all. That's why I go to the conventions that I go to, and I watch the opposing coaches that I coach against to see if there are things that I can learn. I mean, there's so much to learn. Um,
Yeah.
the game doesn't change, but what the coaches do with the game does change. And I'm a high school coach. I'm not a travel ball coach. And most changes that occur in the game occur in the travel ball world. And so, what I try to do is observe as much as I can of the travel ball coaches that coach high school ball, because that's where I'm going to learn so much is from them. And so, there's always something to learn. And, I think what people do is they get stuck thinking that they just know it all. And you never do. You really don't. There's always something more to learn. And I firmly believe that.
Wow. I think that's a really important thing for any coach or any aspiring coach to hear, is that, like you said, you've been coaching for a really long time. You have so many section titles, you have so many wins, you have so much success and respect from the community, and yet you still have this mentality that says, I'm never above learning. And I'm sure that's easy to fall. I'm sure that could be an easy trap to fall into for a really successful person or program, where it's like, I've done it, I've been there, done that, I've had a lot of success. Like, what else can you teach me? And I'm sure that arrogance can come along with that, but I think that explains, like, your mentality is a perfect example, and it makes perfect sense why you're still so passionate and why you're still such an effective leader. And I think that's amazing.
Even the players bring new things to the program. And,
Mm,
it's important to ask the players, what did you learn? What's new with you? What things have you picked up? Because there are always new things that they learn that they can bring to the program.
I love that. I think that's incredible. I wanted to ask you. So obviously, the name of this is Home Team, and I should have mentioned this at the beginning, but if you listen to episode 1, the heart behind this is whether it doesn't matter what uniform you're wearing, it doesn't matter what sport you play, what level you coach at, or what level you compete at. If you're in Sacramento, in the surrounding areas, and you have a desire to make a difference in the lives of athletes and in the community, we're all part of the same team. We're all part of this home team, because I think it's our responsibility as coaches and athletes to be the best versions of ourselves and lift up the people around us, whether it's an athlete or maybe it's just someone in the community. I think that's our job. And so, we may compete against each other on the field, and we're going to go to battle and fight hard. But at the end of the day, we still have the same goal and the same, thing that we want to accomplish. And part of being the home team, as you know, coach, is why is that so important, is because of you have home field advantage and the crowd, right? The crowd is into it. You have the majority of the crowd is on your side. So you look at any sporting event, that's why home field advantage is so important. So for you, so you coach at Sheldon in Elk Grove. What makes your home team, Elk Grove, what makes it so special, and how have they supported you guys as a program? And vice versa, how have you guys given back to the city of Elk Grove?
Well, one of the things that we do is we, like last year, we did a drive for personal products, and we collected all these personal hygiene products. Yeah. And then one of our parents took it to the homeless shelter. And so we did that kind of a drive. The other thing that we've done is we've worked with the local baseball team, where you go and you work with kids that have difficulty playing, and it's called the Champions League, and you donate your time on a Sunday, and the kids work with these kids that have disabilities, and they stand next to the kids and help them field balls or throw balls while the parents are watching. And Jason Jimenez, I think you might know him, he runs this league. Okay. And so many of the softball teams and the baseball teams in the area will sign up for a Sunday and kind of work with that. And incredible. So we'll do things like that when the opportunity arises. And, it's just, I think it's important that we try to give back as much as we can in those areas. I just think that the kids at our school have to do so many hours of community service for each grade level, and we require that our players do half of their community service prior to trying out for softball, and then complete their community service for their grade level during their softball season.
Really?
Right. The students don't have to do the community service, but as a part of our softball program, we do require it.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's
Right.
That's a great idea. So,
Yeah.
like you said, they complete half of it before trying out. So, if there was an athlete who just said, "Hey, I'm not doing this," and they tried to try out, that would be a problem, right?
Yeah. What we'll do then is we'll say, if you still want to try out, we'll let you try out, but you need to make a promise that you're going to go to the Champions League, because you will get community service for that. But I want to know what else you're going to do this spring to complete your community service. I never want to deny a player the opportunity to try out for softball. I always want to give a kid a second chance. Yeah. And they may not understand how important community service is. And maybe they just thought, oh, well, I don't really have to do it. But maybe by the time tryouts come around, they'll say, oh, I didn't do it. Well, I want to be able to kind of put my finger on that player or that potential player and say, okay, you may have screwed up, but how are you going to make it right?
Yeah. I love that. Oh man, I love everything you just said, from, you making that a requirement for your athletes to do. And then also everything you just said about giving that athlete a second chance, because if you didn't give them a second chance, it would be such a missed opportunity to see them grow as a human being, right?
Absolutely.
I love that.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Well, and I like to see the students get their cord when they graduate,
Hmm.
their community service cord. I
Mhm.
think that's important.
Well, and what an incredible statement that would be on graduation day, when you have seniors that were also your athletes, and they're
Mhm.
all they're all wearing those cords. It's like, oh, that must be a softball player, or maybe they are a softball player because they have that cord. And I mean, I think that's such an impressive thing for the softball program,
Right.
for, I guess, for that to be a part of the softball program, because obviously, and I know you know this, but especially when you have a program that's as successful as your program, or like your boys basketball team, incredibly successful, those athletes are known around the area. I mean, I think athletes have such an incredible platform, whether they're on social media or out in the community. And
Mhm.
whether they realize it or not, once they become a part of that team for that school, they're representing that program or that school. And so when you see someone out there, messing around and making mistakes, and doing, I mean, frankly, just doing dumb things, it hurts it makes the program look bad. It's not great for just athletes in general. But when you have the opposite of that, you have a program that's doing incredible things, community
Mhm.
service, and doing the right things in the community. I think that's such an incredible thing. So I just, as always, I love that you're using your platform as a coach to not only, create champions and create athletes who are successful on the field, but you're using that same platform to say, hey, we can do a lot of good off the field. So let's use our platform the right way. Like, I'm always impressed with you, coach, but I feel like each time we have conversations, it's just more and more. So um I think that's incredible. I want to ask you this, because I know, I believe we talked about this before, but so for a coach, what do you think is, if you had to say, okay, this is the one trait, the one characteristic that a coach has to have to be an effective leader, what would you say that one characteristic is?
You have to be a good listener.
Hmm.
No, you just have to be able to listen to your players. And then you have to be flexible. You just can't be so hard-headed in your philosophy. You definitely have to be a good listener and be flexible, because you have to hear what they have to say.
Hmm.
If you listen to them and you make adjustments, they're going to trust you. And if they trust you, they're going to do whatever it is you ask them to do, and they'll win for you. They
Yeah.
will. Um, they'll do what you want in practice, if you listen to them. But it's when we stop listening to them that they stop performing for us.
Hmm.
It's not even performing for us. They've got to want to do it for themselves. But by listening to them, they'll believe that we trust them, and then
Hmm.
they'll do it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I guess that kind of goes back to what we were saying before about, as a leader, as a coach, being willing to just continuously learn. And as you mentioned, sometimes that does mean listening to what your players are saying, because I'm sure, because you've been coaching for so long, I'm sure the information you're receiving from players now is way different than what you were receiving from players maybe like 10 years ago. And
Right.
I'm sure, just because you're constantly learning, and athletes and just the culture is constantly changing, it probably is a very interesting thing if you were to dissect every year of coaching, in the couple of things you learned each season. I'm sure it's just vastly different every time.
Mhm.
Yeah, such an interesting thing. And I do remember you saying that the listening thing from last podcast, and that really did stick because I'm like, I think it's so good. But I guess it would be easy to fall into that trap as a coach too. Like I said before, this is how it goes. I've been doing this longer than you. I'm older than you. I'm the leader. Do what I say and just go with it. It's like,
Right.
you know, like you said, that's just going to turn their ears off, and then it's just not going to work. So, I wanted to ask you this again, going back to this idea of home team. All of us, even though we compete against each other, still being a part of the same team, this home team of Sacramento and the greater Sacramento area. That being said, what if you all these years of coaching and the different coaches that you've competed against? Who is a coach that you would say, hey, I want to give a shout out to this coach because of how they carry themselves, how they've competed, and how they've done things the right way? Which, if you had to choose one coach that you would say, this is an incredible coach that I've had the honor to compete against, and why it was such an honor, who would that be?
There are so many really good coaches out there. I have to tell you that Linda Merida,
Okay.
Linda Merida up in the Woodland area,
Okay.
she has been coaching as long as I have, and we have competed against each other for a very, very long time. And we go way back. And so I want to give her a shout out because of all of the times that we don't play against each other now.
Sure.
Our schedules just haven't really matched up much. But back in the day when we were all in the Delta League together, we used to compete against each other. And it was a battle.
Yeah.
It was always a battle, but it was a nice battle when she was at Woodland High School.
I love that.
We had a great time.
That's
We
awesome.
really did.
So, in all those years of competing against her, what as far as her characteristics as a coach, what do you feel like stood out the most to you?
I felt like she listened to her kids. I felt like, she pushed them.
Yeah.
Like I pushed mine, but I felt like she did she listened, and she had a good heart, and she still has a good heart.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I always love hearing that, because we always talk about how, we compete against each other, and that competition is good. Having that good healthy competition is good for us, because it makes it makes all of us better, right? It's going to push you. So, you guys compete against each other, and you push her a little bit, and then she pushes you a little bit, and then everybody just gets
Right.
elevated because of that. And so,
Yeah.
that's why we wanted to ask this question, because I know we spend so much time competing against each other, and we have rivals and all that, which I love. I love the rivalries in sports. I love
Right.
the competition. I love the exciting games from those rivalries. But I do think it's important for us to give some shout outs and some honor to coaches that we've competed against, because
there's one more coach I want to shout out to,
please.
and that's Kevin Warren from St. Francis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Kevin does just a remarkable job there. And we have competed against each other for a lot of years too. He's been the assistant there, and now he's been the head coach there. And he's got himself just a great program. And I just really enjoy competing against him, because he has such a positive attitude, and you can tell he really cares.
Mm-hmm.
And for a private school guy,
Sure.
I like to give him that
That's
jab.
awesome. Hey, you have to. I get it.
Yeah.
That's good.
But I and he goes to the national convention every year, and it's always nice to run into him and catch up and share stories. So yeah, he does an outstanding job at St. Francis.
Awesome. What about is there over all these years of coaching, you've obviously seen a ton of athletes. I know you've had some athletes that have made it to pretty high levels of the softball world. Um, who's an athlete? I mean, I know it's like picking your favorite kid. It's not a fair question, but uh, who's one athlete that you feel really stands out that you coach that really exemplifies character, honor, integrity, and then also you feel like when someone says, "Oh, that athlete is from Sacramento," they're part of our home team here, and you feel like they represent the home team really well. Who comes to mind?
Well, probably I have to say Lindsay Ziegenhurt Munoz,
Okay.
um, because she uh, she played on the U.S. team uh, when, and she went to Cal.
Okay.
She was a catcher, and now she and her husband are running the Lady Magic,
Oh, okay.
and they have their own facility. Um, and so she she's just a she has two young boys
Okay.
and is coaching travel ball and doing it all.
Wow.
And she's a great person. She really is. She really cares about the game. She has a lot of passion. She cares about her family. Um, she just really kind of sets the tone. And they started the 18 and under team that they have when they were very young, and they really built it up into a powerhouse. And now a lot of their players that are playing 18 are going to some really good colleges. And I have to say that a lot of that has to do with the development that she and her husband, Ernie, uh, they really developed these players very well. And not just as players, but as people.
Yeah.
Um, Great character. And
Yeah.
so they're just, I think, doing a lot for Sacramento, doing a really good job.
I love that. I love hearing that because one of the things that I always love seeing and hearing from coaches is when their athletes either come back to their program to help or assist or even just to visit, or if they just come back to their hometown, their home team,
Right.
and give back in a way like that where they have their own facility or they have their own business and they're giving back to the community. I love seeing that because I think that shows a lot of it shows how valuable the home team is. It shows how valuable the hometown is and how much passion they have for it. So right now on your coaching staff, do you have former players that came back and are now coaching for you?
Um, no, not yet, but
Okay.
we're hoping in the next year or two that we will pick some up. Uh,
Awesome.
we're really hoping to. I have parents of players that I've coached. Laura
Okay.
Ziegenhurt is one of my assistant coaches, and John Mendonca
Okay.
is one of my assistant coaches. And John's daughter played on my 2002 championship team.
Okay.
And then Laura, of course, is Lindsay's mom and Katie's mom, who also played for me.
Very cool.
And then Joe Jaquez is one of my assistants, and he coached with me at Elk Grove and is now coaching with me at Sheldon. And then Wes Archie is coaching with me, and he is the parent of one of my current players.
Yeah. We love
And
Wes.
yeah,
Yeah.
Wes does a great job with kids. He really does.
Oh, and he's
Um,
incredibly passionate. I know he was on our on the Combine podcast. Him and Bo, um,
yes,
we're both
yes.
there, and just two just amazing people. A lot of fun to talk to, but yeah, so much passion. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
Oh, that's okay.
yeah, they're amazing people.
Yes, yes. So anyway, yeah, they're my assistant coaches, and they're doing just a fantastic job.
That's great. Yeah, I was just curious, and that's awesome that you have a couple of former players that you're hoping to get in the mix pretty soon because I wanted to ask you how important do you think that is to have to bring back people to whether it's just to help out every once in a while or to actually be a part of your coaching staff where they graduated from your program or they played for you and they competed for you, like how valuable is that for them to come back? Because I'm sure any help that you can get from any coach that's doing an amazing job is great, but I always felt like it was really special when a former player comes back to their school, their alma mater, and helps there. But I mean, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like that there's like an extra something there when they do that?
Oh, I think it would be huge,
Yeah.
just huge. I think it would make all the difference in any program to have a former player come back and be an assistant or even at some point take over a program.
Yeah.
I really think that would be the icing on the cake.
I completely agree because I think when you have a former player come back and they look the athletes in the eyes, I mean they can literally say I was like where your cleats are, I was stepping in the same cleats where the batter's box you're batting in, I was there, the pitching circle, I've been on the same exact field. And I
Right.
think there is a kind of a cool element to that. I also want to point out too, I would be absolutely terrified, as I think most of the community would be, to have to fill in for you whenever you're done coaching. That would be a terrifying spot. There's just certain coaches that have been doing such a great job for such a long time. It's like, I don't want that spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no way. So I'm glad I'm not a softball coach because it's too much pressure for me. So I just have a couple more questions for you, Coach, and then I want to make sure that we're respectful of your time. Like I said, I really do appreciate you taking some time to talk to us, and like I said, I always just enjoy our conversations and picking your brain because again, the whole purpose of this podcast is to have conversations with coaches and athletes and hopefully pull out some pieces of knowledge and some little nuggets here and there that will help another coach or maybe an aspiring coach to develop their game or maybe even avoid mistakes. Maybe there's things that they could potentially fall into that they hear a Mary Jo say, hey, you should probably do X, Y, and Z to be a successful coach. And they can avoid a bunch of problems just by listening to this. So, I appreciate what you're doing, even on this podcast and giving back to the home team. I really do appreciate your time. Um, what kind of, this is a big question, but well, actually, let me start with this. I know we've talked about this before, but I love this so much because I read this. I think Joe Davidson wrote about this. The marbles.
Oh,
You guys give marbles. This is one of my favorite things ever. Uh, I think in his article he was saying that you give out marbles throughout the season. Can you explain like how that started and what that's all about?
well, I think I started it at Elk Grove. Um, but I wanted to find something tangible that I could give to the girls that they could have every time we won a game. And so I decided to start to give them a marble so that we would be playing for all the marbles. And so um, I just went out and bought a bunch of marbles. And uh, every time we'd win a game, I'd make up a story about the marble and I'd give them a marble for winning the game.
Yeah,
Well, it's really grown into something kind of big now. And so now what I do is I go and I get the color of the team that we're going to play. And well, I try to,
sure.
and I buy these marbles from this company so that when we play a team, if we win, then I give the girls the marble that's the color of that team. And so hopefully, when we win, I pull out these marbles that I have in my backpack
Yeah.
and I give them to each of the players and they keep them. And so what's happened is over the years, sometimes at the end of the year, I've had some seniors give them back to me in a jar.
Okay.
And so I've kept them on my desk. One year I thought, well, I'm kind of tired of doing these marbles. So I did beads.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
that did not work at all. At the end of the year, the player said, we don't want no stinking beads. We want marbles.
That's
So the
amazing.
next year, I had to bring the marbles back.
Yeah.
And so, trust me, if I forget the marbles, I am in really deep trouble.
Oh, I bet. I bet.
So, like for away games, I have to make sure that I write myself a note or I leave some extra marbles in my truck
Yeah.
so that I have some extra ones in case I forget to put the right ones in my backpack,
Oh my gosh.
just to have extra ones because I cannot forget those marbles. And when we go to tournaments, my backpack is really heavy.
Oh, yeah, for a tournament? Oh, yeah, because
Yes.
you don't necessarily know who you're going to play, so you have to have all these
No,
colors. Oh my,
no. So I just take whatever colors to tournaments. It doesn't matter.
sure.
And then for playoffs, of course,
Yeah,
the few times that we've won sections, I have a big marble.
I love that.
Yeah. So
That's the
we
big one.
play for a big marble.
Man, that's such a cool idea. How many backpacks have you broken since starting this? 'Cause I imagine your
Yeah,
backpacks.
yeah.
Yeah,
I know. A few.
I bet. I
Yeah.
bet.
Yeah.
I would be, and I guess there's no way to really tell this, but I would love to know which of your players or which group of players has the most marbles, because I'm sure through their 4 years of playing for you and then, championships, I'm sure there's a group out there that has the most marbles. I would love to know. So if you're a former athlete for Coach Truesdale and you think you have the most marbles, let us know. Let us know how many marbles you have from Coach Truesdale. I would love to know that.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. I'm sure we could try to figure it out. I'm sure one of my assistants might figure that out.
Hey, if you guys did that for me, if the assistants, if you're listening, please do that and let me know. Send us a message, send us a DM. Uh, I'm terrible at math, so it's a good thing I'm not doing it because I would I would miscount. But
Yeah.
that's awesome. No, like I said, I didn't realize that about the tournaments. I don't think we talked about that last time. Good for you though. The funny thing is, most coaches, high school coaches, are worried about game plan, who they want to start, who's going to play, who they're playing. You're doing all that, plus you have to remember a bag of marbles. Good
Yeah.
for you. That's why you're the best, coach. That's why you're the best. You can do it all. So let me ask you this one final question, and this is a big one, but I think it's really important, and I'm really interested to hear what your answer is. Obviously, in sports, in coaching, in athletics, you hear a lot about legacy, especially when it comes to programs. You hear legacy. What kind of legacy do you want to leave? What kind of legacy did this coach or did this athlete leave? So when it comes to, obviously you're a staple in the softball community here in Sacramento. What kind of legacy do you want to leave when you say, okay, I'm done with coaching. I want to move on to, I want to just play golf, no more coaching, just golf. What kind of legacy do you want to leave for the home team of Sacramento? Not just your program, but Sacramento as a whole.
You know, I want people to create positive memories for themselves through athletics. I want them to have fun. I want them to develop the kind of skills that they're going to need to survive in this world, to make positive decisions, life decisions for themselves. to be able to communicate with each other. You know, the legacy that I want to leave is a legacy that is kind of large in a way, because I want people to have fun through athletics, but I also realize that there's a serious side to it too. And that serious side comes from learning how to make those tough decisions in life. But there's nothing better than being a good teammate. And I think if they can learn how to be a good teammate, that'll be huge. And so probably that's the biggest thing that I can say, is that learn how to be a good teammate.
That's great. That's great. And that's one of those things that any aspect of life, whether you're at your job, whether it's with your family, your spouse, your team, your teammates, whatever it may be, or as a coach, I think that's one of those things that applies to every aspect of life. And so I think
Right.
that's an incredible legacy. And yeah, I have no doubt, coach, that that's the kind of legacy that you're already leaving. So I love that. I said that was our last question. I lied. I do have one more question, because I need to know this. Um, okay, so you're in my opinion, and I know everybody else thinks the same thing. You are an incredibly just sweet human being, but I know you're also a fierce competitor. How do you do that? Because I think some people can't balance the two. You know what I mean? It's like they're very fierce, and it's like they're just fierce all the time, or they're just, a very sweet person, but maybe they're not able to reach that competitive peak. Like, how do you balance the two things so well?
Well, I'd say tequila, but
Hey, there we go. That's all we need. You hear that,
but
coaches?
really, I think that, you know, I do meditate,
Okay,
and that helps.
got it.
I really do. And that seems to really help me uh, get to a place where I can reflect, and and that brings me to a more peaceful place. And so that brings me calm and kind of centers me.
Hmm.
But I just get pumped up. I just really do. When it's time to compete, I can just turn that key and compete. But it's like I said before, you got to have fun.
Yeah,
You have to have fun. And if you can't have fun, don't do it,
I agree.
because it can't be so overwhelming that it infects you. You know,
Hmm.
it's ultimately, I mean, you're either going to win or you're going to lose. Those are the options. And ultimately, it is a game.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And there's more to the game than winning and losing. Even though you want to win,
Right,
there's still more to the game than that.
right. Absolutely. And I think that's just a really healthy perspective. And it doesn't mean that you don't want to win. It just means you have
Right.
a good relationship with winning and losing.
Right.
And I think that's really smart. Are you just where are you, okay, where are you more competitive? Are you more competitive on the golf course, or are you more competitive as a coach on the softball field?
As a coach on the softball
Okay.
field. Yeah.
Wasn't sure. I felt bad for anybody who golfs with you. It's like, if you're more competitive out there, whew, it's gonna be a
No,
rough
I'm
18
pretty
holes.
laid back as a golfer. I know my limitations.
Oh, I get that. I was just at Top Golf with my brothers, and not one ball went straight. So
Right.
yeah, that's awesome. Well, coach, thank you so much. Thank you, as always, for taking the time to chat with me, and also invest into our community, our athletic and coaching community. I know, just like from last time, our conversation, people love hearing you talk, and love the wisdom and knowledge that you provide. So I'm just grateful that we have this opportunity to connect with you. And just thank you so much for everything you're doing, and good luck with this upcoming season. A little bit more normal this season, right? A little more
Oh, absolutely more
back to
normal.
schedule.
This
Good.
is great. I am so excited about this season.
Oh, I think everybody is. So I can't wait for
Yes,
you guys to get out there and compete in the spring when you're supposed to compete. So
me too.
thank you so much, Coach. I appreciate you and your time. We'll be seeing you soon.
Okay, thanks, Josh.